Awesome. How are you today?
Good, good. Nice meeting you.
I know
Thanks
you
for
too.
agreeing to do this. This is
Yeah,
great.
yeah, you too. How did you get involved with this?
Actually, I was through backstage.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. So you must be in the theatrical entertainment industry, or
And so I work. I'm a chef, and
okay,
I work in the food industry, but I also do a lot of, I do a lot of on camera work, and so I've had a backstage profile for a little while because at the end of the day, I just want to be like one of the guys who gets his head chopped off in Braveheart or something. Like I just want to like have a cool extra role.
right, okay,
And but yeah, when interesting stuff pops up, I'll occasionally reach out, and
right,
this was definitely one of them because it's something that I'm
good.
very interested in. So
Yeah, me too. And I was very interested in what you were saying too in your preliminary video.
yeah,
What caught my eye was the when you're talking about how the media has inflamed things. I couldn't
yeah,
agree with you more, man. I mean, that is
totally,
amazing what's been going on for years. See,
totally,
I'm a little older. I'm a little older than you, so I grew up into journalism when journalism was true journalism. And
yeah,
I remember the names, Chet Huntley, David Brinkley. These are the guys
yeah,
that were the tops in the industry, and they just stated the facts, all the facts, no opinions, no
totally.
biases. And what happened to our journalism?
Well,
That's
and it's one of those things where I think profit is what happened. Like now it has to be a business, which I just think
right,
is too bad. And it's also what bothers me about politics now is that like so many the politicians spend, especially people in Congress, spend half of their time in office just raising money for the next election,
that's
and
exactly right.
and they don't have time to actually govern. And then the news. It used to be that like we were given a set of facts, and then
Right,
how you decided to act upon those facts determined where you fell politically, right?
that's right,
And
that's right.
now it's just, I mean, I watch a lot of Fox News, and I watch Alex Jones, and I watch different people just, and I don't agree with a lot of things they say, but I just want to know what people are hearing,
Absolutely.
because otherwise it's like we're coming to the debate with completely different facts, and it's
Right.
or fact, I don't know what the whether
Yeah, I
it's
don't know if it's true facts or if it's just their own agendas and things that they're trying to push. But
totally.
I
And
don't, I don't feel I can trust them anymore
yeah,
and say anything that's really honest. I listen to Fox too, and Fox I think is good, but I think they have their personal agenda aimed at
yeah,
things just like CNN has their personal agenda. So you
totally.
try to listen to different things, but it's hard to really come up with a truthful interpretation of are they really telling you the facts, or
Yeah,
is it made up? And so I don't believe a lot of stuff I hear in the news anymore because I'm not sure if it's truthful or not.
yeah, and it's hard because in order to like be an informed citizen, like every
Yes.
headline that you see or every news article that you see, you then have to do 30 minutes to 3 years of deep diving about like, well, what are the actual numbers around that, or how has that been spun? And yeah, I mean, and it's I just feel like it's the hard part in my world is, so I grew up in Colorado Springs, Colorado, which is like a
Okay.
pretty conservative city. And I grew up in a family that we were atheists, or I mean, we were Catholic, but like not
Right.
practicing. And then I
Right.
basically have been an atheist for most of my life, or agnostic. I don't exactly know where I fall,
Right.
but and it's, a city full of a lot of evangelical Christians and a lot of military. And when I was a kid, I had friends all across the spectrum. My house was
Right.
really liberal, but I knew a lot of very conservative people, and we could talk about stuff. And then,
Right.
basically since I guess would probably W's presidency, um, I've lost a lot of those friends because they just don't want to have the conversation, and
Right.
they're coming from a place of like, and I think this election was such a example of it, was the other side is evil,
Right.
and
Right.
or evil or stupid or.
Right. Right.
And so it's like when we get together and we talk about things, and these are, we're all coming to it with intelligence and care
Right.
for each other, but it always ends up becoming this like, well, you just don't care about people, or you hate
Right.
America, or what, and it's really depressing.
It is. I know when I was growing up as a kid, you had a couple of premises that you could rely on. One, if you were lost, you could always go to a policeman and felt
Mm,
safe, to do that. Today, the attitude or the tone towards police is stay away from them, don't deal with them,
yeah.
whatever. I think that's kind of a mistake. And I also remember as a kid growing up that you could have a discussion without anger or, you know, nasty language or anything like that. I mean, you could eventually end up agreeing not to disagree, or agreeing
Right.
to disagree. But now it seems like you can't talk a subject with somebody either getting loud, angry,
Totally.
start calling you names, you know, or even physically doing violence to you or something
Sure.
like that. And I'm thinking, where is this society going? Why are we like this? How do we bring it back to where
Yeah.
we can sit and talk
Right.
and come up with solutions and ideas and things to do to fix things? Because we got a lot of problems out here. We got a divided country that is just unbelievable right now.
Totally.
I don't know if it's going to ever come back again. You know,
I know.
I'm really worried about that.
I know. I wonder. I mean, it's yeah, and it's and then some people. I have a couple friends. Are you married?
Yes,
Is your wife? Do you guys agree politically generally?
yeah.
Yeah.
We're both conservative,
Yeah.
Republican, like we have been for all our life. So yeah.
And I have a couple friends. I have a couple family members that are in marriages where usually
Yes.
the woman is liberal and the man is conservative, and I'm like, how do you do that? And they're just like, well, we just don't talk politics.
That's right. That's
But
right.
to me, it's like politics are life.
Yes.
Like if
It's what's
you.
going on every day.
And if if your child grows up to be gay, or if your child grows, any of these things, like how do you reconcile those issues if you're coming to it with a different frame of mind? And
Right.
I don't know. I just don't. That's a really. And I think that like there's so many. One of the other things that I said in my initial video was, that we're all so siloed. Like we're able
Yes.
to be. I'm able to basically. I live in Portland, Oregon. I like watch the news that I watch. I listen to the podcasts that I listen to. And, if I don't want to, I could never hear anything from the conservative side of things. Or I could almost never hear, the other day I sat down and I listened to an entire Trump rally. I watched an entire Trump rally because all I hear is clips.
Right.
And so
Right.
it's like you can pick and choose anything that you want to hear. So,
Right.
yeah.
And that's what they do on the editing is they just pick what they want to show you or what they want you to see.
Right.
So, yeah,
Right.
it's really kind of a limited, and again, it's biased to what they want to show you.
Of course. Yeah, of course. Tell me, tell me what a little bit about you. Like, what's your background? What's your work life?
My background, I'm retired now, so
Okay.
my wife and I both retired. I retired a couple years ago. We both were in the healthcare industry. My wife was a registered nurse for 45 years. We've been married going on 45 years here next year. So,
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. And we're also, I've been retired for 2 years. I'm in my third year. And the first year we traveled all over the world, basically cruises, flying, having a great time. And then COVID hit. So
Yeah.
that put a hamper on everything. So what I did to utilize my time is I got into, since I have a strong medical background, I got into set up in my bedroom over here a studio for voiceovers. So I do medical narration, voiceovers,
Oh,
medical
great.
learning, explainer videos, things like that. And then I got involved with backstage, and now I'm doing a little bit of everything from podcasting to audiobooks to all sorts of different things.
Oh, that's great.
So, yes, and I wrote a couple books during this time when we were locked down. A travel book from Arizona that my wife and I, all the places we did, had that published, working on another book.
Wow.
I got three audio books that I'm doing right now for ACX for them for some things. So, I'm just trying to keep busy because
Yeah.
I've got all this time on my hand and I got to figure out what to do with it. So I decided to do this. I've been having fun doing it. So
Yeah, that's great. I mean,
it's a
that's
hobby that's going into a business.
yeah, that's very much work that I'm interested in doing too. It's the idea of doing. My wife and I have a podcast, and we've had a podcast for about a year and a half. And I'm very interested in in all of those things. So that's really cool. How did you get your books published? Did you self-publish or did you use a publisher?
I went through a publisher. Yeah, I went through a publisher. She does travel books, so my book was, on Arizona travel. So
That's
it was
great.
a little art copy. Then I made an audiobook about that, and then she asked me to do some audiobooks on a couple of other books that I'm working on.
Oh, that's exciting. Wow, you definitely have stayed busy.
Yeah. And it takes time to do the audiobooks and all that, so it does take a lot of time in doing that properly. But I really enjoy working with the backstage and several of the other companies that are out there too, and responding to it. I get, I've got like almost 1,700 casting calls across the world that I've done
Wow.
since January, and I've only had like 40, repeat casting or auditions.
Wait,
And
did you just say?
on some of them, and some I didn't. So
Did you just say 1,600 since January?
since January.
Wow.
Yeah, I turn out probably a dozen to 2 dozen casting call responses every day. So
wow.
There's that much out there regarding, podcasting, guest work, audiobooks, all sorts of things. So there's a lot
Wow.
out there.
I need to dig into Backstage more because I have like I can't remember. I don't know if I pay for it at this point. I think I just have the kind of like intro, whatever. And because I was kind of like, oh, I don't know. So maybe I need to really dig into it because that's really cool. I should do that.
Yeah. I bought the subscription in January for a $99 special or something. I think.
For the year or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I'm totally gonna do that.
Good.
Well, yeah. So tell me. So Sarah suggested topics for us.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you want to discuss those topics?
Sure. Or whatever topic you want to do. That's fine.
Yeah. Tell me what were the four that she had? Was it the economy?
Economy was one. Regarding Trump conceding, and let's see, what was the other one? Climate change.
Climate change. Great. Okay. And then, then maybe we do hit COVID just for fun.
COVID, sure, a little bit. That'd be
Okay,
fun.
great.
Yeah, I think we've got about 40 minutes on this to do, so.
Oh, great.
We've got a little bit of time. I think it's 40 minutes before they cut us off.
Okay, that's awesome. Well, where do you want to jump in? You want to go deep? You want to go Trump conceding?
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Let's go big first.
Yeah. Well, I'm still a little concerned about. I'm actually kind of shocked the way the election went with all of this potential or talk about fraud and all this stuff going on. But it kind of scared me a little bit with the mail-in ballots. Now, we've done absentee ballots in Arizona for years.
Yeah.
And they have a great system. I mean, you mail it on in, you get a text that they received it.
Yeah.
You get a text that they confirmed it, it's been checked, and your vote counts.
Yeah, same
as other states. I don't think we're ready for this volume to come in. And I think there's some possible issues regarding that, but I don't know what to believe anymore regarding the voting system and stuff. I've kind of lost a little confidence. That was something you could always rely on. Is you had the results on November 3rd.
Sure.
Midnight.
Sure. I know Yeah, I mean, Oregon. We've done mail-in ballots for a really long time, and so our system is pretty flawless. And with the same thing, we have I drop mine off, and then you get a text 20 minutes later saying that they've received your ballot, and so that's great. I mean, what's interesting, I'll just say from my side of from like the information that in my world is that like the only voter fraud things that I've heard of are a couple like random people trying to vote like for Trump for their dead grandparent or something like that, and then I've heard the stories about different people in different states wanting certain areas to not be counted or to not be looked at, mostly black neighborhoods, and and I find that concerning. I mean, to me the numbers to me really bear out that Biden, it feels to me like Biden won. I mean, the numbers are so big that it's kind of like, I find it hard to believe that there would be 6 million cases of voter fraud, And
I understand that. But the thing I was going to, when we started out with the election process, it looked like Trump was doing really well, and then all of a sudden it switched really quickly, and you kind of have to scratch your head. Because my rationale is, you look at the turnout, like you said, when you looked at that Trump rally, the thousands of people that were at the rallies, and then you look at Biden's rallies, and there's a handful of people driving by or a few people sitting there, and you kind of think, well, how do these numbers correlate with the enthusiasm that Trump had versus the lack of enthusiasm that we saw with Biden's campaign?
Well, and and I will. Yeah, I mean, I think there's to me, it's like there's two factors. One, COVID. I do kind of feel like I am a super politically active person. I wouldn't go to a rally, and I must admit, I voted more for Kamala than I voted for Joe. I like Biden. He's fine. But I was, I wish that it was another candidate. I would have liked it to have been someone further left. Like I would have wanted it to be Elizabeth, or not really Bernie, but Elizabeth Warren was kind of my favorite. And then I voted more for Kamala. And so, but it's, I mean, and then, the other part of it is that, the idea of kind of the like red mirage, at least is the way that I've heard it was spoken about, is the idea that there was, so many in-person ballots that were counted right away. And then most liberals, I think, were voting, by mail. And so it's like, it just takes longer to count those, right? So it is, I mean, and it's, to me, it's like, I almost don't think we should even look at election day anymore like that's the day where we're going to decide things. Right. Yeah, and it's, and I will say that I think that the way that Trump has handled things, it makes it really difficult because his silence is disconcerting as the president. Like, since the election, he went silent for so long,
Right.
and it just
Right.
leads people to kind of like, everybody's imaginations can go crazy. And then also, I don't think it's helpful for him to be discounting the system and the like democracy, basically. I mean,
Right.
I find that, and it's especially, I will say, especially being in Portland, where, like, let's just be real, if there's going to be like a civil war, it's probably going to start here because it's where everything's been happening, and so
Right.
it makes me nervous.
Yeah, it does. It makes me nervous too. I mean, it's kind of scary what's been going on, and you got 73, 74 million people that voted for Trump, and they're kind of waiting to see what happens with this election. And
Yeah.
I know they're going to be very disappointed, if it doesn't happen, and
Yeah.
it doesn't look like it's going to. So I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out how we can kind of get this divide and make it closer.
Totally.
Bringing it closer to where we can talk more and discuss things, because I'm worried about that too, as a potential civil war or civil disobedience.
Sure.
So this that may erupt from this down the way. So,
Well, and it's
I think doing this is great.
I do too.
I think they need to do this across the world or across our country. Having these meetings of one-on-one or,
Yeah.
or 5 people or whatever, doing some discussion back and forth. I think that would be great.
Well, it's
out in the open.
sure, and it's and I think it's like to have it be one-on-one, unarmed, and
Right.
and sober. Like, I feel like there's when I was downtown for a lot of the protests here, the initial protests around George Floyd, but then also I was there a little bit when there was clashes, because what happens in Portland is that the people just hear like professional protesters. I mean, everybody just goes out, they want to be heard, they want to do their thing, they want to make signs. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like 95% of the people that are there are there just to be a part of it, right? And then there's the 5% that after 8 p.m. want to create some chaos and want to break some stuff, right? And but that being said, this is where the media and I have become unfriendly in the past year or so. Is that it was a block radius in Portland, and there was like 10 people that were really doing the damage, and yet the media made it look like it was World War III. And so I had people calling me from New York and from other places like, oh my gosh, is your house gonna burn down? And I'm like, no, like it's like it's all contained, it's fine. But what would end up happening, is like the Proud Boys, or there's another group here called Patriot Prayer. They would come, and a lot of them came armed, and they're pretty intense people, and so they, what would end up happening is just everybody would just fight and scream at each other. There's no moment for anybody to actually see each other or talk to each other.
Right. Yeah, I think that's part of the problem. Yeah,
totally.
You gotta sit down, unarmed and sober, and talk about some of the issues. Put up 4 or 5 issues and talk for them, and record the information. Maybe that's something useful the media could do. Would be sponsoring that and having some such situations where you can sit down and do that.
Sure.
Across the street or whatever, however you want to do it, live or on Zoom or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's needed. I think it needs to be discussed.
Well, I end up, I'm a mountain biker and a skier, and so I end up in, like, I live here. I lived in Boulder before here. I've lived in Napa before that. I've lived in mostly liberal places. But when I go to a mountain town, it's usually kind of 50-50, conservative to liberal. And those are moments when I come in contact with people that I might not otherwise. And for the most part, the reason that I think these conversations are good is that, like, at the end of the day, we're all looking for the same things. We want our families to be safe. We want our kids to be raised, in a good environment where they can be educated and be safe and be smart and happy.
Right.
We want our economy to be doing well. We want to be able to start businesses. And so it's like the fractured part of it, I think it comes to, I think the fact that we're spending so much on campaigns now, like that you can't become president without spending $1 billion.
Right.
That's crazy.
That's great. And the Senate race in Georgia is going to be $1 billion each on that too. So
100%.
Unbelievable.
So back to Trump conceding, how do you think that should be handled? Like, what do you think should happen with it?
Well, I'm not sure. They have to certify all the states,
Yep.
for getting the electoral votes, and now I'm hearing that some of the Republicans may not want to certify or something in the state legislation.
Yeah.
And then I was reading about the Amendment 12 that if they're regarding the amendment, if there's issues regarding the electoral process, that maybe that has to go to Congress. But I don't know, is any of these lawsuits that Trump's doing, are they going to end up getting into a courtroom, or are they going to be elevated up to the Supreme Court? See, I don't know how that process really works.
Right.
But the Amendment 12 was talking about where that it could actually, the electoral college could be put on hold, in my interpretation of this, and it could be done by the Congress. The Senate would decide the vice president, and the House would decide the president, and it would be one vote per state or something of that nature, the way I was reading it. So it would be pretty much more cut and dry. These are the numbers, this are the votes, and this is the way it's going to be, versus, 73 million people voting or something of that nature. So
right.
I don't know if he's ever going to get to that level or anything like that, but I don't know. I don't know when he's going to come to a concession basis. If he is going to come to a concession,
yeah.
He may not, then it just, walks out on the 20th, and that's it, So I don't know. I don't think he should do that.
Yeah.
I think there should be, a transition situation, and, showing him the ropes and touring him around the White House, which he already knows and stuff. But, just some sort of decency regarding that.
That's great. No, I appreciate you saying that, because it is. I was just listening to a thing about H.W. Bush when Clinton came into office. Do you know about that?
No, I don't.
When H.W. Bush wrote him this letter, you should look it up. It's this letter is like, it brings tears to my eyes, because it's like the truest sense of like gentlemanly warfare. Like,
right.
Yes, we're on opposite sides of a lot of things, but at the end of the day, you're going to be my president too. And,
right.
And I thought, and it was just such a cool thing that H.W. Bush did by saying that. And I'm hoping that, that Trump doesn't, I think we both can admit probably that he's an emotional person.
Yes,
and that he's pretty volatile.
He's from New York too,
Yeah.
There's a certain, you visit with over people in New York, they have a different attitude toward things.
Yeah.
Stuff, so,
that's where I'm from. Like my whole family's from New York, from Long Island, and
okay.
and it's interesting because they're very split on Trump, and a lot of people in New York kind of. They know Trump, and they know kind of like the
right.
things that he's done in New York City, which some of them haven't been, some of his business practices are kind of like not the best. Like,
right.
And so, but yeah, I hope that if things, what I find difficult is that I think that a true democracy in my mind is the people, like is the popular vote to me seems like all that should matter. It's like if more people want a simple majority, the more people that want one person, that's who wins. The Electoral College to me seems so antiquated and like something that's just, I don't know. I have the same problem with the fact that we have 2 senators per state. It's like, the fact that that Wyoming has the same amount of senators as California seems crazy to me, or Rhode Island. It's like, it just feels like there's a lot of things that have been kept in our system because it helps. I think, truthfully, it helps Republicans win because they win when less people vote.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's true too. Yeah, I think the Electoral College, the way it was designed, from my understanding, is that way it'd be shared throughout all the colonies or all the United States.
Yeah.
If it was a couple states that were large with census and population, then those would be the ones that would be deciding what's going to happen.
Right.
And I think the forefathers felt that wasn't equitable. That's why I think they designed the Electoral College.
Right, and totally true. And totally.
Vote is,
yeah.
Is something that needs to be weighed in there too. Regarding what the populace really wants to do too. So,
yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough situation. I don't know what's going to happen with this towards the end. I really don't know.
Yeah, and Trump, I will say that like I'm jealous a bit of the way that Republicans have managed things, especially under Trump. Like, and I'm going to use the word packing, but packing the courts, like, down ballot court races, like, and installing, young conservative judges in long appointments, or like the Supreme Court, lifelong appointments. They've done a better job at that than liberals often do. And they're willing to be a bit more cutthroat, and I've always been jealous of that because they're playing the game. Like, where I think a lot of liberals, we end up infighting and calling out people on our side of things when they do something that, is untoward. Where I think Republicans are kind of willing to let things slide because they know that they're going to end up getting things done that they want done.
Right.
And
it's just too bad the two groups, the Democrats and Republicans, cannot work together to get things done, like especially with the COVID crisis, getting us the funding out there to the businesses and to the people that need the money and things of this nature to help them out, help out all of our American citizens to get through this tough time.
Do you think that the Democrats have been slowing that, though?
Well, I think it's both parts. I think, someone puts a bill out there and they argue it, and then the other party says no, and then the other one puts one out, and then they argue it, and then the other one says no. So I don't think they were really working well together to get this thing.
That's certainly true.
I think this is where I think they needed to really sit down more. And I always used to kid to my wife, say, well, just sequester them in the Congress, bring in pizzas, and they don't leave till they get something done.
Right.
Just get it done. This needs to be done. This is important for society.
Oh, I completely agree. I mean, the idea that that we have the things going on that we have going on right now, and we're in a lame duck session. I mean, everybody's left for Thanksgiving. No, you don't get to leave. Sorry. Like, I don't get to go have Thanksgiving dinner with my family because of COVID. So I'm sorry, but you don't get to leave until we get things figured out. It's just.
Right. I would have put in, 100 cots in the congressional center. You sleep in the cot or in your office and be back here, get an hour break or whatever. And
yeah.
Get your dinner brought in, but you get stuff done. And there's a big board on the wall over there, and those are the items that have to be done before you can leave.
Totally. I mean, it's so hard, and I blame Grover Norquist for a lot of things, because I think that he set this kind of agenda that was you either bend to, like, you toe the line as a Republican or you're out, and we will primary you. And to me, it's like that just puts such a toxic environment. I mean, look at someone like what are your feelings about, like, Lindsey Graham?
Well, I like him. I mean, I think he's got some positive things. He's got some negative things too. But I personally like him the way he speaks. I like a lot of the younger Republicans that are out there. I think that will be rising up the ladder down the way in the Republican Party. So I do like some of the things to say, and some of them I don't agree with.
Yeah.
Just like Trump, I didn't agree with a lot of things. The way he said things, the way he tweeted, the way he called people's names. I think it was a little unpresidential. But I do think that that's probably his, and I don't mean to label New Yorkers, but that was kind of a New York attitude, the way you speak your mind, blatantly like that, and that's, unfortunately, it doesn't go across to people well, So
I noticed that in your the pre-tape that you did, the intro, that you were like not wanting foul language, which I must admit I'm holding my tongue, not because I don't swear usually out of anger. I just swear because it's just a pause for. Well, the F word is like a pause for me. It's like a period.
Yeah.
So, but I find it interesting that you're excited about Trump when I think he's like arguably one of the most foulest speaking presidents I've ever seen. I mean, he's.
I don't agree with his language and things that he talks about, calling people names. What I was impressed with during Trump for his 4 years here, that he really did a great job with the economy before COVID came, I think. From a business standpoint, I did well with the business and things grew and stuff, and I don't think I would have done that under other administrations. So I think he knew how to take care of things. I also feel he did a good job in getting world respect for us. I think everybody, the China, dealing head-to-head with China regarding the tariffs and things going on there, I thought that was good to do.
But you don't think that we've lost relationships that are important, though?
I think there probably are some relationships that are going to have to be rebuilt. Yeah, I think so down the way.
Yeah.
But I think he took a stern position, regarding our military, building our military up, so we have a strong military, having respect from the world leaders over there that USA is back on top again, and they're not one to mess with, and dealing with China, some of the issues with China. I know China is notorious for stealing our technology, and I don't understand why that wasn't addressed years ago. In the city. So, I mean, that's a concern that I have. But overall, I mean, I think Trump did a pretty good job, aside from his issues with his mouth.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard for me because I don't feel that way. I mean, I feel like he lowered our standard in the world by so much that, like, I don't know. It's just hard for me to know how we're going to come back from it, because I think, and it's the same. I think the same with Boris Johnson. Like, it's one of the reasons that I just don't feel like a hard conservative. This is the thing about Trump that I have a hard time with is I don't think Trump actually believes in anything. Like, I think he believes in what the person that he wants to impress most in the room wants him to believe in. And I think, like, he's so fungible. He's moved a lot on a lot of different issues that I think, like, and so I will say that, the economy, like, my family did well under Trump because, like, we have a little bit of money, our investments did well, for the most part the economy did well. Obviously the economy tanked under COVID, and I think that the way that he handled COVID was terrible because the fact that he wouldn't wear a mask, all the, like, little things that you have to do as a president to kind of virtue signal and say, like, I'm part of this, I'm a person too, and the fact that he wasn't able to admit that COVID was a thing for the longest time, I think was terrible. And and so I think had we done something like Australia did or other countries that are now out of COVID, I think we could have, I blame him for a lot of that. And so, and then, in the world respect realm, gosh, I just don't know. The way that he speaks about Angela Merkel, the way that he speaks about the Paris Accord, all of these things, to me, it's like, I just don't, it seems so short-sighted. Like, yes, our economy might be booming for a little bit, but what does it mean in the long run when we're pulling EPA standards, when we're dropping, all sorts of things just for money's sake? Like, I firmly believe that climate change is a thing. I believe that not humans, but our inventions have caused it. And the argument for me has always been, whether you believe in it or not, I think makes sense to me to hedge our bets. Because if I'm wrong, then the world goes on and we're fine and everything's great. But if he's wrong, then we're all dead earlier than I want to be.
The USA has done their part or tried to be the leader in climate control, things of this nature, where some of the other countries out there like China and India, Pakistan, some of those are not really doing their best to it. And the reason I asked this is when I was traveling across in my early days of retirement and doing different cruises, different countries we go into, the litter and garbage they had in the ocean near their it was unbelievable. It was like miles of it wrapped around the whole island.
Totally.
And, so I'm thinking, well, wait a second, U.S. I think is trying to do decrease pollution, but then you look at some of the other countries, and I know like China and Beijing and stuff, they've been wearing masks for decades over there just because the air quality is so bad.
Totally.
I think we've got some things here to try to improve our air quality, and some of the filters on the smokestacks and factory and things of this nature. I think we've done some, but I'm not sure the other countries are out there doing anything like we are. So how are we going to eliminate problems with climate issues if the other countries don't participate as aggressively or as supportively as we are?
Totally. And and one of the, and I agree that a lot of other countries were, their carbon footprints were way bigger than ours for a long time. One of the things that's happening though, I think, is like China, for instance, they have the ability, like, when they decide to do something, it happens, partly because of the way that they're governed. And so when they started pushing solar initiatives, it happened nationwide almost instantly. And totally, there's, when you look at emerging economies, it's difficult because they're still burning coal. They're still burning a lot of things that aren't, great to burn. And, I think in our country, extraction and fracking is something I have a really hard time with. I'm from Colorado. Colorado has been destroyed on some level by the fracking that's happening there. And I think that in my mind, we still need fuel. We still need gas. We still need oil. But I think that I would love it if we put more money towards something new, something renewable, solar, wind, whatever it might be, so that we can, because it's like we can say, oh, it's not there yet, till we're blue in the face. But I think that if we were putting real money towards these things, and people understood that, like, we could find a way for people to still make money off of it. I think that's the issue right now, is like, you can't make money off the sun. You're not selling sunbeams. But I think if there was a way for us to get to a place where we're not, like, the idea that I can be holding an iPhone in one hand and pumping gas in the other, like, that those two things can exist in the same world seems insane to me.
It's not very safe either.
That's true. That's totally true.
So, yeah, I agree with that. That's interesting. But I just think that the United States is not getting enough credit for we trying to do things where some of the other nations are not trying as much, and maybe not looking at us as for examples or supporting getting them to do some of that stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's a world event, world compliance of everybody jumping in there and helping out doing that.
Yeah, and I think
I saw the glaciers melting. I've
been
under the glacier several times, and you go there, and the next year you can see several feet is gone again.
Sure.
You know? So there is global warming is definitely happening.
Yeah.
But I think the Earth is pretty strong too. They can it'll shake things around a little bit too if it has to straighten things out a little bit. I just
shake it'll shake with with the fracking earthquakes.
Yeah, probably so.
I mean, it's, as a skier, I'm very concerned about, the idea that, like, I might not be able to teach my kid. My wife's pregnant right now. And so, thank you, Aaliyah. So a lot of the things that I think about the world and a lot of my political views and at this point are, for me, it's like, I'm good. I've had a good life thus far. I could die tomorrow and be happy. But if I have a kiddo, like, I want them to be able to enjoy all the things that I did. And, it's obviously the reason that COVID is so scary. And then the idea that, like, my kid might not live in a world where there's polar bears or might not get to live in a world where they can ski, that terrifies me. And, and the idea of, I will say, like, after the election, like, the idea that my kid is going to come into a world where we have a black female vice president, like, that's a really cool thing for them to see. Whereas if I, brought a kid into a world where, Trump is what I think is, like, tweeting xenophobic and racist things and is pushing policies that are isolationist, that would depress me. Like, that would make me really, would bum me out for sure.
Right. Well, I think Kamala will probably be, in the 4 years that Biden's, I have a hunch that she may step in to take over at some point.
I hope so.
Because I think Biden's got some, issues that he probably won't be able to manage the full 4 years.
I mean, you're saying, like, cognitive stuff?
Yeah.
I wonder about that too, and I know that it's like I don't want to, like, play into it because I know that was something that people were trying to push too much. But the other thing for me is just he's not liberal enough for me. Like, he's kind of like he's pushing stuff that is old, I think, and I like Kamala. I think she could be a really good leader. So I'm hoping that is the case. But yeah, and it's. Yeah.
I think we're going to have to close this up here. It looks like my recording is flashing here.
And is it?
4:38, so I think we're getting close to our end of
okay.
time here.
Is it 40 minutes?
40 minutes.
Okay, great. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, is there anything else that you want to throw out there in the last couple?
No, I enjoyed talking with you, though.
You too.
I mean, if you want to talk more, I think Sarah has my email.
Oh, great.
And, you can send me your email through her or whatever, and maybe we can communicate some more.
I would love to do that.
If you're doing podcasting, maybe we can do a podcast show like this together.
We should do. I think that's something that's really important. I think that could be really cool. So yeah, I'll reach out to Sarah.
Okay.
Do you have my full name?
Do you know what up here.
Okay.
Write it down here.
Yeah. So my email address is.
Okay. And then mine is just.
Gmail. Okay, great. Yeah, well, this was really fun, and it's I'm so glad that we did it, and and I think it's an important thing to do because I think.
I agree. I think maybe this is something that can go on further and further. I hope American Divide would do more of this.
Yeah.
Maybe you and I can do something too with your podcasting and stuff. So that'd be great.
I dig it. All right. Well, I'll bounce you an email after this, and let's talk.
Okay, sounds good, Mike. Nice meeting you. Nice chatting with you.
Nice meeting you too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye now.